Hello, and welcome back to StoryWhisper. Tonight, we're going somewhere new, but not far. If you've visited the last page before, you might remember the bookshop with its leaning shelves and its shopkeeper who always seems to know just the right story. Tonight, we're going to find a door we missed last time. Get comfortable, dim the lights if you can, pull a blanket close, and let's begin. The bookshop is the same as you remember it, or perhaps a little different. Time moves strangely here, between the hours, and shops have a way of rearranging themselves when no one's looking. The candles still flicker low. The shelves still lean inward, curious. And somewhere near the back, past a shelf of books bound in deep green leather, there's a door that wasn't there before. Or perhaps it was always there, and simply hadn't been noticed yet. It's a small door. Wooden, painted the soft blue-gray of an early morning sky. A brass handle, worn smooth, and above it carved into the frame in small, careful letters. The garden. The shopkeeper looks up from her spot by the window, where she's curled into her armchair with a book of her own. "Ah," she says, smiling. "You found that door. It doesn't show itself to everyone." She sets her book down, rises, and moves towards you with the unhurried grace of someone who has all the time in the world, which here she rather does. "Go on," she says, nodding toward the door. "It's been wanting company." The handle is cool under your palm. The door opens with the softest sound, not a creak exactly, more like a breath, like the door itself exhaling. And beyond it, a garden. Not a large one, enclosed on all sides by tall hedges and the backs of bookshelves, somehow, impossibly, both inside and outside at once. Above, the sky is a deep twilight blue, scattered with stars that seem closer than stars usually are. Soft lantern light glows from lanterns hung on hooks along the hedges, swaying gently, though there's no wind. The air smells of jasmine, of damp earth after rain, of something green and growing and quietly alive. The stone path winds through the garden, flanked by flower beds that seem to bloom regardless of season. Roses beside snowdrops, sunflowers beside something that looks like moonlight given petals. The flowers don't seem to mind the company. They lean toward each other the way old friends lean together on a bench. At the center of the garden sits a small round table, white painted iron, slightly weathered. 2 chairs, a teapot already steaming, as though it had been waiting for you specifically. And tending to a flower bed nearby, kneeling in the soil, sleeves rolled up, humming softly, is someone you haven't met yet. She's younger than the shopkeeper, with dark curly hair tied back loosely, strands escaping around her face. Her hands are deep in the soil, gently working something into the ground. Bulbs, perhaps, or seeds. She doesn't look up right away. "You're new," she says, not unkindly. "Just an observation, the way you might note that it's raining, or that the tea has gone cold." She sits back on her heels, wipes her hands on her apron, and finally looks up. Her eyes are warm, a little tired, but kind. "I'm Mira," she says. "I look after the garden. Sit, if you like. The tea's ready. It's always ready here." You settle into one of the iron chairs. It's cooler than you expected, but not unpleasantly so, the kind of cool that feels grounding, like the first touch of evening air after a warm day. Mira pours 2 cups of tea, a pale gold color, steam curling upward, smelling faintly of chamomile, and something else. Something green. Mint, perhaps, or the smell of fresh-cut grass. "This garden," she says, settling into the chair across from you, "doesn't really follow seasons. Things bloom when they're ready, not when the calendar says they should." She gestures toward the flower beds. "Some of these flowers have been blooming for years. Others bloomed once, just for a single night, and never again. The garden doesn't mind either way." "Would you like to hear about the gardener who came before me?" Mira asks, cradling her tea in both hands. She doesn't wait for an answer. Not really. The question is more of an invitation than anything, the kind you can accept just by staying quiet and listening. "His name was Thom," she begins. "And this story is about a seed he planted that took 40 years to bloom. Long ago, before Mira tended this garden, there was a gardener named Thom, an older man, broad and weathered, with hands like tree bark, and a quiet, patient way about him. Thom had been given a single seed by a traveler who passed through one evening. A small, unremarkable thing, gray and wrinkled, the kind of seed you might mistake for a pebble if you weren't looking closely. "What does it grow?" Thom had asked. The traveler shrugged. "No one knows, it's never bloomed. Not in 100 years of trying." Thom planted the seed anyway, in a quiet corner of the garden, near the hedge where the moonlight pooled most evenings. He watered it, he waited. Nothing happened. Not that season, not the next. Years passed, the slow, gentle way years pass here between the hours. Other flowers bloomed and faded around it. The garden grew and changed. But the spot where Thom had planted the seed remained still, a small patch of bare earth, unchanging, while everything around it moved on. Some visitors asked Thom why he kept watering an empty patch of soil. "Maybe it won't ever grow," they'd say, not unkindly. "Maybe it's time to plant something else there." But Thom would just smile, water the spot anyway, and say, "It's not ready yet. That doesn't mean it won't be." He said this for years, decades even. His hair turned from brown to gray to white. His hands grew slower, his steps grew shorter. But every evening, without fail, he'd kneel by that small patch of earth and water it gently, humming the same quiet tune he'd hummed since he first arrived in the garden. One evening, Thom very old by then, his joints aching, his eyesight dimmer than it once was, he knelt by the patch of earth as he always did. And he noticed something. A small green shoot, no bigger than a fingernail, pushing up through the soil, pale and delicate, reaching toward the lantern light. 40 years. 40 years of watering an empty patch of soil. And on this particular evening, something had finally decided it was ready. Thom didn't call anyone over, didn't make a fuss. He simply knelt there for a long while, watching the small shoot in the lantern light, his weathered hands resting gently on his knees. "There you are," he said softly. "Took your time, didn't you?" He watered it as he always had. And the next morning, when the other gardeners came to check the flower beds, they found Thom asleep in his chair by the hedge, peacefully, the way old gardeners sometimes are, with a small smile on his face. And beside him, in the patch of earth he tended for 40 years, a single flower had bloomed overnight. Mira sets her tea down gently, glancing toward a corner of the garden where, sure enough, a single flower grows, pale silver blue, petals like moonlight folded into shape, glowing faintly even without the lantern's help. "It's still there," she says quietly, "still blooming. Every night, the same flower, fresh as the night it first opened." She's quiet for a moment, watching it. "I water it every evening," she says, just like Thom did. "Not because it needs it, I don't think it does, not anymore, but because, well, some things deserve to be tended, even after they've already bloomed. Especially after." The garden settles into a comfortable quiet. Somewhere nearby, water trickles softly. A small fountain, perhaps, hidden among the hedges. The lanterns sway gently, their light flickering soft gold across the flower beds. Mira pours more tea, the steam curling upward into the twilight air. "There's no rush here," she says, settling back into her chair. "The garden doesn't mind how long you stay. Some visitors stay for an evening. Some stay much, much longer." She glances toward the silver blue flower again, smiling softly. "And some," she adds, "just needed 40 years. Time passes differently in the garden. The stars overhead seem to drift slow and unhurried, rearranging themselves into shapes that almost look familiar before shifting again into something new. The tea grows cool, but neither of you minds. Mira hums quietly as she works, tending to the flower beds nearby, pulling a small weed here gently, straightening a drooping stem there. Her movements are slow, careful, unhurried. The jasmine smell grows stronger as the evening deepens. Somewhere an owl calls softly, once then again, then settles into silence. "You know," Mira says eventually, not looking up from her work, "the shopkeeper says this garden chooses who finds it. That it knows somehow who needs a little quiet and who needs, well, time. Lots and lots of time." She glances at you, smiling gently. "I don't know if that's true, but it's a nice thought, isn't it? That a place might wait for you. That it might already be growing something even before you arrive. something that just needed enough time to bloom. The lanterns burn lower now, their light softening to a warm amber glow. The flower beds settle into shadow, though the silver blue flower in the corner continues to glow faintly, steady and patient, the way it has every night for longer than anyone can quite remember. Mira sets down her gardening tools, brushes the soil from her hands, and settles back into her chair with a contented sigh. "This is my favorite part of the evening," she says softly. "When everything's been tended to. When there's nothing left to do but sit and breathe and let the garden be." The tea is cold now, but it doesn't matter. The night is warm, the jasmine is sweet, and somewhere above, the stars continue their slow, unhurried drift. Mira's humming grows softer, slower, eventually fading into a comfortable silence. The kind of silence that doesn't need filling. The garden breathes around you, leaves rustling faintly, water trickling somewhere unseen. The distant glow of the silver blue flower, steady and calm. And if you happen to drift off here, in this quiet garden between the shelves, well, the garden doesn't mind. It's used to visitors who stay a little longer than they planned. If you're still awake, that's all right. There's no rush here, and if you've drifted off already, well, that's all right too. The garden will still be here whenever you're ready to visit again. Good night. Sleep well. I'll see you next time on Story Whisper. I'll